It's actually quite interesting. The champions of NXP are now being introduced to the side of Omega Esports, right? You have the Zed, you have the Jin, which are very, very well known for the side of NXP, now being used by Omega Esports as well.
Yes, yes. I mean, if it comes down to each other, two bands are not enough from each
Yeah.
other. They have played in a series that is an all-round pick and ban that reached a
Mm-hmm.
game number 6. And of course, these two teams are very, very familiar on actually utilizing their own picks as a ban against each other. So, I mean, as a denial against each other. We are officially into the game, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go. NXP versus OMG for the finals. And may I ask all of our viewers to take a screenshot of this live stream and be sure to share it because here we go again for this saga between these two heavyweight teams.
It at this point it became a story. It became an anime, a video game, right? Wherein NXP and Omega Esports are the main character, and there is the villain of that game, of that series, right? It is gonna be very exciting as now it's gonna be the early invade coming in Omega Esports with a 3-man roam on the top side of the map.
Mega here denying, of course, very quick on that red bramble back. They can easily convert that onto the top lane side. Should ever Arisen overextends, and you remember that these two teams they have two tactics. Whether they go and fully limp the enemy jungler, but for the most part they emphasize on the Baron lane. They've chosen the jungler. It's gonna be impressive. Embracing Joshi here. Here comes the stronger level 1. The concussive blow passives connects onto Arisen and also Joshi, and they know they cannot take any more hits. Rather, they would suffer a stun. And that's it. A little bit of a lead here for the side of Omega in terms of zone. But gold lead still favors the side of NXP.
I mean, Omega Esports has to pay the price, right? They lost one wave into the Baron lane because they went in for the early invade into the jungle side. But nevertheless, let's look at the Baron lane as they are going in for the turret by Omega Esports. And similarly, NXP is going in for the bottom lane turret. Now, Camille is stuck in the top. What is going to happen next is going to be very interesting, but the mid laners are staying in their lanes, going in for those minion waves in the process to go for those farms.
They have to be careful. Again, even though it may seem that Omega is able to complete the
Oh.
push here for the top lane side and even NXP on the other side, this is just an overall trade. And we are just at the 2-minute mark of our game. It's the classic, ever classic matchup between these two teams. We've seen this already happen. The trade between the turrets. It's about how will they converge on whatever remains also on the lanes, on the mid, or even on the dragon lane where both of the duos should be arriving now. Let's see. We're speaking of the mid. You get Disaster here taking up a position. Just you also focuses towards the Raptor. And rather, NXP would be happy because they got lucky on getting a spawn of the Scuttler near the Dragon Pit. That is random.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just easier time for both of these teams right now. But NXP has gotten the tower first blood. That puts them at a very advantage against Omega Esports in this fight. And yes, you have the trade of the turrets, but still, you can't disregard the advantage of getting tower first blood and even the first blood that we have yet to see in this specific game. 2 minutes and 50 seconds in the matchup. 1 more minute and 5 seconds remaining for the next dragon to come through. It's going to be the Ocean Drake, which these two teams are known to have benefits from this Omnibam, from this sustainability that this dragon provides.
Yep, here we go. We are accounting actually for around 45 seconds on the timer of that Ocean Drake. So the big tension here can also be up for the top lane side because you don't expect the support, maybe even the jungler. But of course, the ward spots them. Joshi and Disaster. So this is time for OMG to capitalize. They're gonna be moving, delivering their bottom duo onto this bottom lane also. And now they have 3 members advantage down. Stronger, does he want to drop the Glacial Fissure out? And I think that's it. The turret is focused already by NXP. They're gonna be quick. And of course, that will be traded also by OMG.
They're now going for turret to turret. NXP is going in for the top lane while Omega Esports is going in for the bottom lane turret now. Bottom lane turret and top lane turret for both of these teams right now has been broken. It's 2-4-2. And now they're sitting at a 400 gold lead for the side of NXP as we are now proceeding into the dragon now spawning into the map. It's gonna be the fight. It's gonna be the clash for both of these teams.
want to emphasize Infinity that it's not just the 400 gold lead that NXP has. They also have kind of a 5-second lead in
Mm-hmm.
terms of map coverage. That is very important, and that means a lot between these two teams, especially they're playing at the highest level. Members here of Omega, he gets stronger, staying down at the mid, taking up the position. He does know that he's warded. All entrance towards the Dragon Pit down from the mid has vision. They have no idea where Disaster might be, and rather they're gonna vision towards Disaster. They land in the deadly flares
Oh,
towards Disaster, but it's gonna be Josh securing the Dragon Pit, and the fight breaks out. It's Disaster landing the combo towards the Jin, towards Timelapse. Glacial Future by stronger. Also, the remaining members here of LXP and JLC capitalizes on the cleanup. 5-point strike, where is it? He did flash out. Guardian Angel is also removed against Jesse.
oh.
And he got the Ryzen walking back. Jesse is destroyed. NXP takes the Drake, but it will be OMG who will kill and capitalize on the mistake of NXP.
They were separated in that fight, and that was Omega Esports going in for that massive explosive cast from that Gragas, just split out the enemy team. So that actually gave them the opportunity to go for pickoffs to pickoffs to pickoffs. And you know what? Lee Sin went in for the early GA,
Yeah.
actually considered to go for more of a defensive play than rather to go for the attack items for a Lee Sin, which is considered to be a Yumu's Ghost Blade,
Yes,
but he
yes.
went in for the GA instead. So that is lack of damage to the side of NXP, and considering, you have Omega Esports goes for that AoE type of setup with Brom having that Glacial Fissure with Gragas to start it all off with the explosive cast puts them in a very, very much a good favor in that fight.
Did Infinity and also that GA on the Lee Sin will emphasize more the fall off that usually happens on the Lee Sin by the late game.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that GA is nerf. Remember that GA is more expensive. Actually, if
Yeah.
you look into the Lee Sin, I would bet the boots is not yet okay, that is upgraded. Has the long sword, but you have to take note that even with the lead that he has sitting at 5.5, I think it would have been quicker had he secured the it would have been higher on the damage had he secured the Yumus Ghost Blade. But I totally understand, at least there's little and there's a mitigated death here for the Lee Sin, but it doesn't matter. Keepat breaks out, another bullet time gets casted in under the Herald, and this time the one who play makes, the one who cash in all the leads that was available for OMG would be of GLC, got deleted quickly, and the bullet time will reap rewards for the side of NXP. Objective still falls in their favor, Herald in their hands. So what happens is Arise trades it with an inner bottom lane.
Yeah, at this point, Omega Esports went in for a more risky type of play, wherein they went in too deep, they were separated, they were not in coordination with each other, and that gave the opportunity for NXP to go for that kill. Even though, if Miss Fortune actually missed the bullet time, right, it actually only connected to the Brom. Akali was going in for that 1v2 situation, Brom was onto that misfortune, the rest of the team was going back, so it was just a huge jumble for the side of Omega Esports. But although they lost that fight, they got a good kill onto Uzi. They killed off with a tower dive into the mid lane, which was actually a good type of comeback and trade off from that Rift Herald lost into the latter part of the game.
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 on the gold lead for that part. Explosive cast. 3 points secures that blue buff.
Yeah. And now it's gonna be the 2K gold lead. Going for the 3K gold lead right now as Omega Esports, very smart to go for the pressure into the top side of the map. Lee Sin and Camille is currently waiting right there as they see each other with a kick coming in from that. Lee Sin, the Hextech ultimate connects to Gragas. No explosive cast available, and that will secure a kill for NXP. Gragas says bye-bye. It's the jungler down to the drain for Omega Esports.
Not to mention, notes are some casting also the body slam mid-flight of that Dragon's Rage. If there's one thing that is very dangerous about the Dragon's Rage, it's a very long crowd control because mid-flight you barely can do anything. Let's see here. Is stronger, ladies and gentlemen. Puts up the unbreakable. Here comes JLC. They can make the fight. Josie tries to get the flag, but of course receives the death mark. Gets mitigated by the flash, and they don't give any opportunity for JLC to go in. He did have the shuriken flick. Will he commit? He still have the shroud also, but I think that's it. And members here of NXP takes outer mid.
Yeah, and the Lee Sin with the GA just puts him in a very good spot when it comes to being confident, going to the backlines, going for the kill. And Zed went in for the death mark on the Lee Sin, but what does it do? It doesn't actually produce that much of a damage because you have the GA. In addition to that one, even though if Lee Sin was killed at that point, you still have a GA to be popped for himself, so that is no kills gonna be going through for the side of Omega Esports, and that in turn, pushes back NXP a bit. They won that team fight, they won that damage output in terms of that aspect, of that engagement, so they translated it now to a Mountain Drake.
Indeed, Rodden Drake, ladies and gentlemen. Ocean Drake is also on the pipeline. We are a few seconds before dropping towards the Baron. Also want to emphasize the lead established here for the side of Omega. If we are accounting for the Lee Sin sitting at 5.5 earlier, now at 8k. Of course, 8.9 is in the hands of Arise. Arise was given a lot of freedom to actually go for the splits in this run. And now lots of crowd controls. 2 man receives the Dragon's range for the pushback, but it doesn't matter. That's gonna be JSK will re-engage. Flash in, and that's deletion towards that Gragas. Quick deletion onto him. Fats are melted. Disaster chases in. Curtain Cole shoots away the members here of Team NXP. They need to stop the recall because Arise is closing in towards another inhib.
That was smart of NXP. Did you see Camille use the Hextech ultimatum to force out the explosive cast from that Gragas, and that is able to make Esports to disengage in that fight, and that forces NXP to get more kills, more advantage, and more deaths for the side of Omega Esports, and that is now going in for those little bit of trade-offs. That is what I'm expecting in this game. It's those intense type of fights wherein you force ultimates to force out other teams that has more valuable when it comes to their ultimates as well, and that is actually a very smart move coming into the side of NXP.
Man, again, NXP, they need to be very snappy. Their window is only just around 2 to 3 seconds whenever they commit to the chase. And remember that had it been this Arakan, probably their vehicles would have been foiled for that part.
Yeah.
But of course, it would be, I think the Brom still has the better standing compared to the Rakan in terms of defensive capacities. All in on the combo, and they want to just delete Disaster here. They're focusing towards Disaster, but the timers for MG is, I think, is up. They're focusing towards Arisen down at the bot. NXP, that is Disaster is gonna be removed, and it's gonna be another slay maybe in exchange by NXP as Arise is trapped under the Hextech ultimatum. No mid lane support for that mid, and let's see if what NXP can do with this lead.
If that weren't for the Stasis Anchan coming in from Uzi in that misfortune, he could have been slain. But nevertheless, it's going to be the 1-for-1 trade-off for a support against a Baron laner of a Z. Omega Esports didn't get the good end of that trader, but that is able NXP to go for more further fights because they lost their main initiator, which is the Alistar. So overall, Omega Esports not getting the good end of that trade, but when it comes to team fights, they got the good end.
They got a good end. Indeed, indeed. And I remember that it's totally okay to target the Alistar as long as there are no other targets around. Don't hesitate on targeting the Alistar, especially an Alistar is a champion who's very much has a lot of tendency in compromising his position. Maybe like that, but I think not so much because he's using the backline. No ultimate available for the Alistar. Deathmark also. Does Uzi have a flash? No, he won't. Deathmark within the range, and that's it. Instantly, the bottom duo of Team NXP got deleted by OMG. OMG is set on to take a lead for this game number 1. They focus us towards the Baron.
And now it's going to be very difficult for NXP to go to contest this. They have lost 2 man. They have lost the Alistar. They have lost Misfortune. They're only going in for that 1v1. Now Lee Sin after went in for the ultimate onto that Akali to just delay the fight. It's going to be the knockoff. It's going to be the explosive cast. Delay the fight. It's going to be the kick. But it's not going to be enough. It's going to be the Jin securing that Baron Nashor. And now it's going to be Akali going to the backside of the map, going for the dash. It's going to be the Zed falling down to the ground. And the G is going to be popped by that Camille, but is no longer being alive as Braum slays him down. It's gonna be the 2-4-3, but the Baron is on favor of Omega Esports.
Indeed, let's count the Baron. Available for the bottom duo, Brom, and also on the Jin, also on JLC. They will have to relay this buff towards the lanes, and of course, it would be onto the work of Arise to go for the split, along with Impressive also can go for the Roma rounds. Now, the thing here is, again, like you said, Infinity, team fights favors Omega here. 3K on the golden, but the thing here is what will happen would be the vision landed on, not by the words, but look at that, on the traps of the Jin. That's the strength of the Jin, ladies and gentlemen. Makes it awkward for you to really fully engage. And Omega knows how to play around this character, to play around this champion. And of course, El Clasico, you see how Arise is separated also from the ranks here of Team Omega.
And yeah, and Lee Sin was not going in for the dive because of the Jin traps, in addition to how they were split up. right? Lee Sin was ahead of the roster, but the rest were nowhere to be found. They were at the base going into the dragon. So there was not enough time to dive in that fight. So now it's gonna be Omega Esports securing that Cloud Drake. You may say it's not gonna be as beneficial, but you have Akali, you have Zed to the side of Omega Esports. That is definitely gonna put them at the better mobility in terms of those mid game, late game fights, wherein you have those backdoors for your team, wherein you have those strategies that is essential when it comes to mobility. But nevertheless, it's gonna be Lee Sin and it's gonna be Hextech Ultimatum.
Gentlemen, Joshi is there. Bullet time gets casted, of course, avoids the plan here of JLC. He did have his stasis on, compromising position. Disaster connects here. Will there be a stun? No! In the middle, impressive, but also stronger as Sonic Wave connects. And I think NXP can capitalize, especially with Uzi with the free hit. Here comes the Camille. Teleport is also in. Timeless tries to kite back, and of course, they know that they still have enough damage. Omega, that is 2v3 situation, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, Timelapse continues to kite back. Let's see here. Uzi misses his own double up. He burned his own flash just to dodge the deadly flourish, and I think that's it. And 2 for 3, it was a nice duel still, and in this game, they're still at it, and that's NXP.
Yeah, absolutely. If you connect those shockwaves, if you connect those bullet time, the Hextech Ultimatum, even without a Gaga's ult, you are in your favor for the side of NXP. In addition to the single targeted knockup of Lee Sin, it's gonna be big time for their team. And I think Omega Esports was just going in slowly that 1v1, and Jin was on the backside, was not being able to get those shots connected against NXP, and that was the bad thing for Omega Esports, right? Jin is their main source of damage dealer. They have to have that burst damage, and yes, considering that Jin has Humus, Infinity Edge, that burst cannon, you need to get those shots connected. You have the crit, you have the penetration, but if your hit doesn't connect, what's the worth of your items? But nevertheless, right now, it's gonna be Omega Esports roaming around the top side of the map as Alerstar goes for the face check, but it's not gonna be the follow through from Omega Esports. Impressive is here to go for that little bit of a trade-off against Alerstar's Baron Nashor will now be alive in this map.
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, again, things are building up heavily here for the Baron. And of course, for the first one in the position, that would be of Omega. And let's see here, of course, NXP very capable of taking the fights. All they need is to actually get the proper timings with their own ultimate for this Baron. I really cannot advise Omega to start the Baron, but they need to at least get some attention here for Arise to have some license and freedom on going for a split push down at the bot.
With Zed having that teleport ready, with Camille having that teleport ready as well, this may be a potential go for the follow-up and response coming in for both Omega Esports and NXP. Now, the matter here is who is going to TP first in this fight. With Camille going in for the reset, this is an item advantage going in for the side of NXP, as NXP just hovers around the top side of the map as the Baron lane. With Impressive is actually quite split up for the side of Omega Esports. A pick off coming from NXP is going to be big time. The ward is now going to be cleared out by NXP. It's going to be dangerous. Lee Sin goes in for the skill shot with a check into the Baron split as they disengage. But what is not going to disengage is this fight in the top lane.
It's gonna be the curtain call, casted on, of course, majorly bloody blocking by Disaster. He's still into the back line, the explosive cast is also there. Free hit is available here for Uzi and also to Chule, and the stasis is also to Joshi, and it doesn't stop Arise to re-engage. Remember that this time Arise is not splitting, he's joining the party, kite back from Timelapse, and NXP takes the trade of a 2-for-1.
But you need to take note, NXP Joshi, with that Lee Sin, has still his mind up and running for his team, while Omega Esports has lost their jungler. At the same time, it's a 2-for-1 trade-off, so NXP has 4 members for their team. And yes, they don't have those frontliners, disregarding Camille, but that smite is going to be very important. This is going to be the Infernal Elder Dragon. It's going to be big time as Zed goes to initiate the fight.
Let us see here, ladies and gentlemen. Arise was able to get a pop onto the GA, but of course, Arisen would also deliver him the end, the nothingness as he goes in. And of course, another GA will be popped, this time into the hands of Timelapse. Arisen is still into the front line. No one is splitting here. JLC is not giving any freedom to go for the dive. He did receive the Sonic Wave, and there's the vision available onto him. And of course, an Infernal Elder should be available, but NXP would be none the wiser as they go for the recall, for the reset.
think they have a lot of items. They have a lot of gold from those initiations. I think they took so long to get those Infernal Drake, but I think it was very smart. They took the Jin kill, they went in for the reset, meaning they have the item advantage when it comes to a fight, even though it's a 5v4 situation, because you need to respect a Gragas ultimate, a Braum ultimate, with alongside Kali and Azed. But nevertheless, it's gonna be the clash once more into the
Here
bottom side
we
river.
go. Here we go. Bullet time that at the back line gets countered for by that that mark. But of course, the stasis is also casted on. I'm seeing a lot of red marks, not just from the Elder Drake, but rather from the NXP. His stasis onto JLC. They focus towards the Ryzen, also with the proc of his stacks gauge. And here comes Jose, and also Disaster, waiting around to deliver the death towards the Rise. But still, with that, no backup can come in for JLC, and this would be free license again for NXP in taking the Elder Drake E.
That GA from Camille has put him into safety. The Jin was not able to really capitalize right now onto the curtain call because of the block and defensive capabilities of an Alistar. And Gragas, Braum being killed without their ultimates are rendered useless in that fight.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Omega Esports is heavily dependent on the ultimates. And
Yes.
while NXP has the potential to go for that duels even though without their ultimates.
Also
So
want to mention, Infinity, that the continuity of damage is better on NXP side. Time-lapse is reloading during fights. They have a lot of ways of mitigating the damage that can come from time-lapse, whereas in the late game, Misfortune has better auto-attack damage onto the front line here of Omega. Omega needs to find and pull up another card in their sleeve if they really want to turn back this game, because at the end of this would be NXP now.
yeah, it's just gonna be hard. At this point in time, when you have the Infernal Drake in its Elder Dragon form, it's gonna be big time. And it's not, I think, 8% damage increase. I think it's gonna be more than that because of its Elder form. And you also have the Ocean Drake available for the side of NXP alongside with the Baron buff. They're smashed in when it comes to permanent buffs and even the Baron buff as well to go for that lane pressure. And Omega Esports going in for the split push into the bottom lane is not going to be enough as they are forced to back away as NXP is now pressuring into the mid lane. If an inhibitor turret is going to be open, there is a potential to backdoor if ever Omega Esports are able to defend this fight, which they
Yeah.
are able to do, but it's going to be very hard as the face is now open against Omega Esports.
The crazy part here is that Joshi is soloing in JLC. What is happening here? Joshi has the Randuin's Omen also available would be of the Trinity Force, and JLC is delivering a lot of squishy items into the pool in the form of that cap, in the form of the Leandris, and even the Infinity Orb, forced to build the chainmail now because he knows that even Joshi can also punish him. Omega loses out their mid lane inhibitor. Then now this got Arise focusing towards Joshi, burns the death mark, but I will give freedom for NXP to go for another next inhibitor turret push. I think this is gonna be the game. This is gonna be very dangerous for them. Omega loses one member. 10 seconds on the pocket here against JLC. They have a lot of damage just to deliver against the Nexus, and this goes to NXP game number 1.
That was a huge mistake for Omega Esports. And I don't say this because I hate them, but because